Hello, and welcome to the Advanced C++ Programming course. My name is Mike McMillan, and I'm going to be your instructor. To tell you a little bit about myself, I am a full-time instructor of computer science at Pulaski Technical College in North Little Rock, Arkansas, and an adjunct instructor of information science at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. I've been teaching programming to college students for over 13 years. Before I became an instructor, I worked in industry for almost 15 years, as well as doing some consulting work. I am also the author of an introductory C++ programming course, also offered by Infinite Skills. For this course, you should be at least an intermediate C++ programmer. And by that I mean you should have completed an introductory course, such as the one that Infinite Skills provides, and be comfortable with object-oriented programming, writing functions, loops, if statements, all of the standard introductory programming material. Let me write my name real quick so you can see it. What I want to do in this video is just give you an idea of the different subjects we're going to be talking about in this course, and I'll just list them and talk about a few of them for a second. First, we're going to talk about inheritance, so we're going to build on just basic object-oriented programming knowledge. Next, we're going to talk about polymorphism, which is a more advanced object-oriented programming technique which enables us to mix and match objects in ways that are beneficial for larger projects. After that, we're going to be talking about generic programming. Generic programming allows us to create objects, classes, functions, and mix and match data types. So for example, I can write a class that uses an array for data storage, and I can make that array be a string array in one instance of the class, or make it a int array in another instance. Next, we're going to talk about exception handling and how to handle errors that come up in our programs. And I'm not talking about logical errors, I'm talking about more like runtime errors, such as trying to open a file that doesn't exist. After exception handling, we'll spend some time talking about streams and stream input and output, a little bit more about how cin and cout work, some advanced uses of those operators. And we're going to talk about sequential containers. I'm talking about data structures that allow us to store data in sequences. Next, we'll talk about associative containers. Examples of those include things like maps and sets. After associative containers, we're going to talk about generic algorithms that work with some of these containers that we've just talked about. After that, we're going to talk about what I will term non-standard template library data structures. The sequential and associative containers are all part of what's called the standard template library. So some of the data structures we're going to talk about in this chapter on non-STL data structures include things like stacks and queues, what you might call traditional data structures. Next, we're going to talk about non-STL algorithms, and that's traditional algorithms for searching and sorting. Next, we're going to talk very briefly about namespaces and how to use namespaces to provide some organization in our programs. And then we're going to wrap up the course talking about the string class and some advanced ways of working with strings. In addition to this video, I'm also going to reference in a couple of exercises some books you might be interested in purchasing. While you learn a lot from this course, it would not hurt to have a printed reference. And so in a couple of places I will reference a book called C++ Primer by Lipman, LaJoie, and Mu. And I'll also talk about a book called Data Structures with C++, written by Ford and Top. These books are not necessary for the course, but if you're looking for an advanced book to read, either one of these would be very useful. So that about wraps up this introduction to advanced C++ programming. And at this point, I believe we're ready to go ahead and dive right in and get started learning about inheritance.